right. Hi, Sandi. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. I am so excited to be able to introduce you to all of these amazing women. First of all, welcome everyone to the League of Goddesses interview series. This platform is here for sharing insight into the methods and thought processes of some of the most badass women, and of course, sometimes men in the world, and how they use these methods to attain their dreams. These amazing guests are going to share with us their intimate, tried and true methods and knowledge that have taken them decades to create and compile to help you propel yourself to attaining your biggest dreams. This is the real shit that I wish I had known sooner, and I hope that we can share this information with you guys and just everybody be able to accomplish their dreams more quickly and I definitely feel like today's guest is going to help us get there. Today's guest, now that we are speaking about her, is a high performance productivity coach for female entrepreneurs. She helps overwhelmed, stressed out boss maximize their time, energy, and productivity to be present and I'm so sorry, in all of the aspects of their life. She helps women go from overwhelmed and burned out to balanced. And she is also the author of the upcoming book, Slay Your Day: How to Get More Done, Become Ultra Productive, and Unlock Your Full Potential. And now that I've told you about her accomplishments and credentials, let me share with you why I am personally ecstatic to have her here. I actually met Sandi on a women's panel for Million Dollar Masterminds, and I immediately knew that she was an ultimate badass. I could tell by her knowledge that she shared that not only had she been there and done that, but that she had done it efficiently and well, all while balancing her amazing career that has just skyrocketed and her beautiful family. I was so impressed with her ability to cut through the bullshit and exact the results that she wanted to create and the life of her dreams while she did it. I knew I had to share her with you. That being said, Sandi, I am so happy that you are here. Thank you for joining
I'm
us.
so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wonderful. I am actually really anxious to just dive right into all of your awesomeness.
Yeah,
And
let's
instead of
do it.
presuming, I would love to ask you first, can you tell us what are you most passionate about teaching with other entrepreneurs?
So for me, I love teaching women the strategies on how to truly be fulfilled in life. You know, we are told, I don't know if it's society or just the expectation of what's passed on through the media, that, you have to work your booty off. And if you're going to do that, then you can't be fulfilled as a mom or a wife or within your own self-care, and that you just can't have it all. And I just don't agree with that. I think that you absolutely can. You just need the right systems and tools and strategies to do it, and that knowing what that blueprint looks like. So what makes me so excited is when I start to work with a client, whether it's one-on-one or in my group coaching or through my book or my programs, and I get to see that transformation that she has. I physically get to see how she goes from, as you were saying, the burnout, the overwhelm, the stress, and into, oh my God, I can have it all. And I get to be the best wife and mom and woman in business. And she feels fulfilled across all of those pillars of her life. So it truly, and it gives me goosebumps when I say it, because it doesn't just impact the one woman who's taking the course, reading the book, doing the coaching. It impacts the entire family and her community. And for me as a woman, like, I never wanted to just, hustle my booty off in business and not have the family, or be the mom who stays at home. Look, I give credit to all stay-at-home moms because it's the hardest job in the entire world. But I was like, I personally need to be fulfilled as a woman in business, as a mom, as a wife, and for myself personally. And when I get to see that with my clients and how they get to adapt that and have that in their own lives, it's amazing to see how they step up and very, very quickly get to these next levels and get to have it across all areas of their life.
That is awesome. I couldn't have asked for a better answer to that. So with that said, why this subject? Why? What is the passion and the drive? When did you wake up and just go, oh my God, this is what I need to do?
Yeah, so my son, my oldest son, so I'm pregnant, I'm 37 weeks pregnant today,
You are a
at the
trooper.
time of recording this. And when I had my first son, who is 2.5, he's almost 3 years old, I was in my prior business, I was doing sales, I was an event planner, I was doing all the productivity things. But when I became a mom and that transition, which was, 3 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, my world like just shook and it turned upside down. And so many of us today are tapping into this word of new normal because of coronavirus and all the things that are going on. But I started talking about this term 3 years ago when I became a new mom, and I went from just operating my husband, myself, my business, now into taking care of this little, human that needs you for everything, for eating, for change. I mean, every little waking moment, you're responsible for this child. And for me, it was like, how do I now step into being the best mom and wife and woman in business and for myself? And how do I do that? And it was one of those moments where it was a breakdown to have the breakthrough, because it was truly a breakdown moment for me, that I was like, where am I? Like, I didn't know my up from down. I was totally thrown off. And for all the women that are mamas, especially when you're a first time mom, you're like, everything's new. No matter how many courses you take, books you read, whatever it is that you study, however you prepare yourself, there's still nothing like the real thing, the real deal, right? So for me, I was like, okay, how could I be so productive in business, but not be able to figure this out on the other side, like on the personal side, on the mom side? So for me, that journey began when I became a mom. And I was really, again, it was a breakdown moment that I was like, I've got to figure out this for myself so I can help other women who are going through the same things figure it out and get to the other side.
That's awesome. So you kind of covered, my next question was going to be, how did you gain this expertise that you now have to share? And it sounds like a lot of that was just, man, trial and error. But there definitely had to be a really intriguing thought process behind it. Because when you were at that breaking point, okay, I don't know top from bottom, and I'm drowning here, and this is not the way that I normally operate. What was it for you? How did you gain the expertise that you have?
Yeah, so I remember being in that moment and thinking, this isn't it. Like, there is a learning experience here, right? And this can be for anyone who's listening and you're going through something right now and you're like, I can take this as a learning opportunity. This isn't a stop. This isn't an end. This is just a detour, and I need to figure it out. I don't know how many of you read the book, Who Moved My Cheese, but I'm obsessed with that book because it's all about figuring out, like, how do I get to the next level? How do I get to that next place where I'm adapting and growing and evolving? And for me, it was such a vulnerable moment for me because I operate from a very high masculine energy where I'm always go, go, go. And as I was saying, my previous background is in the event planning space. So I've always been super efficient when it comes to planning and scheduling and systems. But when you try and implement that logic into being a mom and babies on their own schedule and doing their own thing, you got to figure out what works. And a lot of it, yes, it is trial and error, but a lot of it is also like, okay, how can I start stacking my wins? Where am I seeing the success? Where am I seeing the progress? And really taking it one step at a time and building that momentum, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. We're not going to build empires in a day, but what we can do is start to look at what is working and track that success.
Oh, I love it. The tracking. I think that is such a key to almost any success that you're trying to attain. So if you had advice or a tip that you could share with us today that you believe makes a huge difference, what would it be?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind is you are in control of everything. You're in control of your environment, your thoughts, how you show up. Everything that we do is a decision, and we get to decide where we go. So if we're in this crazy world of coronavirus and COVID right now, and a lot of people are playing that like victim mentality. They're playing that victim role. And I would challenge you and say, it's very easy to step into that and say, well, I can't show up in my business, or my business isn't reaching a certain level because of economic times or this or that, and placing blame in other places. And I would challenge you and I would say, what do you want? because at the end of the day, you are the only one that gets to decide which way that boat is going. Where are you steering that ship? So take control, get into the driver's seat, and really identify what it is that you want. Because when you can do that, the plan becomes much more clear to see. It's not just like, well, I want to make this amount of much money in my business and I want my life to look like this. What do you actually want? And then put that plan in place. One of the biggest things I'm known for is my systems and how I help my women strategize and get their game plan in place. And you need to do that in each area of your life to go after and actually have the things that you want. So don't leave it up to chance. Take the accountability, step into that power, and truly realize how powerful you are at going after and getting those things that you want.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome advice. And now I'm going to ask you for one more. If you had one more tip, what was your number 2 that you were thinking about sharing?
So, like I said, I'm a systems girl. Everything, I mean, it's so funny because like I said, when you become a mom, some of that goes out the window in terms of like, you know, there's certain, you can do schedules with, especially, you know, babies and whatnot, they're on their own schedule. So plan as much as you can, control the controllable, but know that you're always going to be pivoting and reanalyzing. And, you know, you need to have that game plan, but also know that you got to be a little flexible in that too, you know, because a lot of times people will come to me in my group coaching programs or with an interview and they're like, Sandi, you're so structured and you have all these systems, but what happens when that doesn't work, right? Because like we can all plan and have this amazing plan in place, but that's not life. Life doesn't always go according to our plans. More than likely, it doesn't go that way. So as much as I am the planner, the systematized, all of that, you also have to be flexible and almost have like that plan B where you're like, you know what, this is what I'm going after. I know what the goal is, but I'm more focusing on the targets that align with that goal, not necessarily one straight path.
Right. And so then you would say that there's multiple ways to get there. So just know that, hey man, stuff's going to come up and there's going to be curveballs, embrace those. And because you have planned so well and organized everything, you will usually, from my experience, have a quick ability to say, oh, my plan might not be working, but I see another route very quickly to my end goal.
And you become that problem solver. So instead of saying, woe is me, it's not going to work because it didn't go exactly as planned, you get to have fun with it and you get to really, it becomes a game, right? Because you're like, okay, it didn't go as I expected or as my plan was perfectly, you know, mapped out to be, but you get to find new solutions and you get to find different ways to make your goals and dreams a reality. And to me, that's exciting. And I think to anyone who's in this entrepreneurial space and going after your goals and dreams gets to be exciting because you know there's not ever one path, right? And like I said, most of the time, things don't go according to plan, but you set yourself up for success in that way, knowing things are going to come up and you pivot and you shift as needed.
Yeah, I love it. Those were awesome tips. Thank you for sharing those. I don't think I've heard anyone say it quite that way, but I'm like, oh yeah, that is exactly what you have to do being an entrepreneur. And you have to be okay and embrace it. I love that you said it's like a game because so much of life, it really is. And the game is all in your head. Because it's like all these things that we're like, oh, it's a problem. It's a problem. No, it's not a problem. It's just a fun detour that you're taking and you're getting to exercise your ability to adjust on the fly. How quickly can I still attain my goal or how can I stay on track now that I have this different point of view or this different path that has come my way? And you're right.
So resourceful. You know, like you figure things out. You're like, there's not just one set path. I can figure things out. And then you gain that muscle, that confidence in yourself of knowing like, I got this, I can figure this out. And I think that helps across the board in all aspects of life, whether it's a flat tire or again, something doesn't go as planned. You're like, you know what? I know I can figure it out. Like I got me.
And I'm good. I think that is so true. There's never, and I read this in a book one time, there is never a problem ever in the present moment that you can't solve. And we're all living proof of that because we're all still here moving and going.
We're all here.
It's like there's never a problem you can't solve. So if you embrace them and look at them as positives, knowing that, hey, everything that's going on right now is for, then you can have a more refreshed ability to get to those solutions quicker from my point of view.
Absolutely.
But
and
anyway,
you know, I have this I have a son who's almost 3, and it's amazing also how we can pass this on to our kids, right? Because like there's so many times when they come up against obstacles and, they wear their emotions really on their sleeve. Like you see with kids, they get frustrated really easy or really happy. They can go from emotion to emotion really fast. And if we as adults can also almost like teach them, I don't want to say train, but teach them at a young age, like you can figure this out. That's one thing that I instill in my son. I'm like, he said to me the other day, he said, Mommy, I have a problem. Or he said something about, I did something the wrong way. I'm like, no. Or he said, I made a mistake. And I said, we don't make mistakes. I said, you just need to find another way to figure it out. So it's breaking that mentality of like, no, there's no mistakes. I'm going to figure something out. If it didn't work out one way, guess what? It's another opportunity for me to figure it out another way.
I totally agree. And I imagine he's going to be a kick-ass just like you, especially he's learning at 3. Like, hey, there's no problems here. We'll get it solved.
Exactly.
How amazing. It must, obviously he doesn't understand yet, but someday he's going to be like, my mom's a badass. And I'm so because I can't even, I don't think that I ever heard parents from my generation, like as I was a child, tell me that. Like, oh no, there's never something you can't solve. But somehow I kind of came to it, but just from 3 years old to be raised that way, he's going to be unstoppable.
And I was very lucky because I had my dad is an entrepreneur, his dad is an entrepreneur, so it's in the bloodline, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing because I was blessed with my dad. My mom worked as well, but my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was the one that was always like, you figure it out. If it doesn't go one way, you figure it out the other way. But like he heard that from his dad. But can you imagine that was like in the 1920s? Who's talking about entrepreneur? Not like we have today, right? We don't have the mediums that we have today. So to have that, to be able to have the ability and to pass that on is such a gift. And I think that the more we can do that as women, as mothers, like it's so empowering for that next generation to really have that and be built up with that mentality to be able to pass that on.
Yeah, I think that we're as women just at the beginning, and it excites me so much to know that, hey, we can be the shoulders for the next generation, and let's help push them further faster so that we can just all evolve and grow together, because I think it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
And I think once all of the women start to understand, kind of how it operates and works, I feel like as a generation, we're getting our feet under us. We're like, oh, it's coming, we've got it. And then we're meeting other amazing women, and we can, have communions together and share what works for us. It's been phenomenal so far for me, from my experience. And I'm excited
to have it.
It's
so needed because you learn so much from others depending on what their journey has been and what they've learned. So, you take a little, you learn, and you pick up as you go.
And then give what you have. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell me, and I know you still have plenty of a career left to go, but so far, what has been your apex moment?
So again, I think that to answer that question, I have my first book coming out, which is coming out, in the next 2 to 3 weeks here, which is crazy because my second baby is going to be born at the exact same time.
I'm not going to say I wouldn't love it if they happened on the same day. I'm like, how could that be?
I'm like plan for that to happen. Because why wouldn't it?
Like, be awesome.
That's what I preach, and that's what I talk about. So I'm like, you know what? Why wouldn't it happen that way?
Yeah, why wouldn't it be that you're birthing an amazing human and an amazing book all in one day? Like, come on.
Exactly. So, I'm really excited about that because as much as I was telling you before, with my coaching, I get to see the impact and how that really transforms the lives of the women that I work with. This book is going to allow women who may not be able to afford, let's say, one-on-one coaching or a course or a group program to tap into the tools and the trainings and the resources that they would get if they were to work with me. Yes, we get very, very strategic and aligned when I work one-on-one or in a group coaching setting, but I feel like with this book and what's coming along with it in terms of program, I'm doing a book club, like all the things that come along with it. This is going to be a way for women to really tap into, and maybe they've never, they're operating their life day to day now, and they're just like pulling their hair out of their head because they're like, there's gotta be a better way. Like, this is it. And I tell you, when, I grew up with my dad, who was the entrepreneur, my mom was working. She was raising kids. I mean, my parents have been married for 30, I don't know, 5 or 6 years at this point. Super powerhouse couple. But like I have to say, kind of my inspiration for the book, because I remember growing up, and she would just be kind of like the Tasmanian devil all over the place, like going from one thing to the next, always overwhelmed, always stressed out. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to this. There has to be, because life just isn't meant to like be super overwhelmed and then like die. There's got to be more to this. So that's where it started for me. But I feel like, with the book coming out, everything that's coming with it, it's really going to help transform so many lives. So women, if they've never really tapped into this before, maybe they've dabbled in it, they've seen a little bit of it, but they want to go deeper, this is going to be a platform for them to really step into that, to start to change their lives in an incredible way that's going to impact their lives. And I can reach more people on a grander scale this way.
That is phenomenal. And I am so excited for it to come out so that I can share it with the people that I know too, because I mean, just from knowing you, the amount that I do, and then hearing how much of this it's so your bliss. Like you can see it all over your face. This is, and I'm just like, you're going to be able to help so many people that way. And so excited for you. I can't wait for it to be out.
Thank you so much.
So of course. I know this is kind of like still in the mix, but I feel that all of the work has mostly been done for your book. Obviously, it's about to be released. So what do you feel that you learned from the experience and that level of attainment that you've gotten to?
So I feel like, and this is such a good question, because I feel like as women, as individuals, as people just in general, we doubt our capabilities so much. Like we don't realize how much we're actually capable of. I wrote this book during pregnancy. We moved in the middle of this book. So we moved homes. We were in the middle of this pandemic. I have a toddler. I was running multiple levels of my business, from group coaching to my one-on-one to creating courses. There was a lot of moving pieces, all while this book was being written and published and created and designed and everything. And I think so many of us, I've already had so many women reach out to me like, this is so amazing. I can't believe you've done this. And you're such an inspiration. I'm like, but you can too. Like, there's nothing special about me that I can do this and all these other things. And you can't. You just doubt the ability that you have in yourself. And whether it's showing up in business or as a mom or writing a book or launching a podcast or a business, like we are the ones that stop us from getting to that level. And I just would say that like in the midst of all of this, it never felt like, oh my God, I have to write this book, or there's so much going on. It felt motivating and inspiring and so just on point of where my business was going. And I would say that no matter where you're at, what level you're at, don't put those limitations on yourself, because only you can do that. And when you start to remove those, and especially the excuses, that's when you start to get results. So stop limiting yourself. You're so much more capable than you give yourself credit for, especially women. I mean, come on, we're super women and we can do anything. We have babies and build businesses and we do it all. So like, stop doubting the insane amount of potential that you have, because whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it, and probably also do it in half the time that you thought you could do it.
I totally agree with you. And I think that you're really right. I don't know where the doubt comes from, but I feel that a lot of women that I know, and even myself at times, I'm like, oh man, but I have never once decided to kick that to the side and regretted it. So it's just like, you know what? Anything that you put your mind to, you can do. And that you might not be the best at it. You might have to practice. You might, fall and scrape your knees a few times, but it's about
that's part of the process.
Yeah. And it's about the experience. Like I was listening to you list all of the things that you've accomplished, and you know what? You've lived. That's like Sandi lived this last year. She hasn't kept herself by being scared and like, oh, well, I'm going to be tired. I'm pregnant. I've got this going on. No, you really lived and you did it well. And I mean,
I shot the book with my, obviously pregnant. I was 7 months pregnant when I shot the cover. And for like a moment, like literally an inkling of a moment, I was like, should I really do this right now? I'm 7 months pregnant. Should I shoot this?
Yes, you should, because it's even better.
I was like, you know what? And because like you can't see the bump on the cover. When you see the cover, you'll see it's like the way that it's cracked. You can't see the bump. But for a moment, and then I was like, I cannot believe that even crossed my mind, because this is my brand. This is who I am. This is like what I preach and talk about. Like, you don't have to sacrifice one thing because there's all these other things going on. Like, it is who you are. So embrace it. And for me, like I said, it was like a split second where I was like, maybe I should wait until after the baby and I lose the weight. And then I was like, wait a minute, why would I wait and put this off for another 6 months, 4 months, whatever it is? Like, we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that you did. And I know there's going to be a ton of women who agree with that. So, and your cover was, what I've seen, the sneak peek of it is absolutely gorgeous. So I think that's also an amazing story for you to share. That
Yes.
Why would we think that the moment that we are in right now isn't the perfect moment to do whatever it is that your heart desires? Because that just shows how amazing you are as a human. With all of that, with being pregnant, with all of it, you accomplished an amazing goal. So I'm super proud of you, and I'm super proud of you for not waiting.
Thank you. I so appreciate that. And, you know, it really is like, you know, it just goes to show you, no matter where you're at, whatever level you're at, like, you're gonna have those doubts and they're gonna creep in. It's normal. Like, you wouldn't be a human if you didn't doubt yourself, whether it was building a business or a photo shoot or whatever it is you're doing in life, right? Like, that's such a normal feeling to feel. And I also want to add that, like, every next level that we get to, those fears or doubts, they creep in. But that's why you also need to surround yourself with the right powerhouse people and individuals and groups and communities, that maybe when you do doubt yourself, you have someone that's like, come on, like, what do you mean? Why would you stop yourself from doing that, right? Like, making sure that you have that powerhouse, that base there, that even if you are in that weak moment, if you can't do it for you, you surround yourself with other people that can.
Yeah, I that is a phenomenal tip. I will add that in for the early ones, because that is so true. We all are human, and every once in a while, even the strongest of us need someone to lean on, or just to remind us who we are, right? It's the world, it gives us a good beating sometimes, and you forget, like, each of us are so phenomenal and amazing, and it's really just taking the time to remember that and get back in line with yourself, right? So, okay, go ahead.
For granted.
Oh,
I think we take our own gifts for granted, because to us, it's so, like, you and I were talking about this before, but it's so second nature to us to operate a certain way or do things a certain way. To someone else, they're like, oh my God, it's amazing that you could do all these things. And you're like, oh, but this is like normal for me, right? But then, like, we doubt our own abilities sometimes. So you're like, well, of course, like, this is my normal, but for someone else, it's definitely not.
Yes, I agree with that. Okay, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And I would like to ask you if you would just take me back to your childhood. Who was Sandi before all of the fame, the books, the just amazing human that you have grown to be? What was it like? Can you take me back to the beginning?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was very fortunate. You know, I grew up, my parents, like I said, my dad was and is an entrepreneur. My mom, she was working her booty off because she was raising kids. And, you know, I'm the oldest of three. So it's myself and I have two younger brothers. And, you know, I mean, it was a normal childhood in the sense, like, I grew up, went to a great school, had amazing friends. But like I said, I always saw my mom struggling with the element of getting organized, and not just organized like home, right? But like organized in the sense of, like, I would go over to friends' houses, and I remember one mom in particular, and she had like systems and charts, and she seemed so like put together to me. And I'm like, you know, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when like the Rich Dad teachings, and I was like, there's something to this. So I think that was like my first little, like, insight into there's another way that might be more like efficient and effective in our lives. But I just always, like, growing up, I was always like in that hustle mode, because I hadn't learned those strategies yet. It wasn't until I was really right out of college, because I started my own event planning business while I was still in college, because my last semester I had like I don't know, 4 credits left to take, open schedule, started my own business, and then ended up working with an event planning company. But I mean, to the woman who's like, I could never be organized, I could never, figure out how to do systems or this or that. You guys, I am the walking testimony to that, because I didn't grow up like that. I didn't grow up with like systems and planning and all of this stuff. It's something that was learned. So to the woman who's like, this sounds so out of my realm and so out of my reach, you guys, it's not. It's just a matter of, do you want to live a life that doesn't have to be chaotic and crazy, or do you want to stay in that? Because sometimes it also could be the woman that wants to stay in that. It's almost like a protector for her. It's like, that's her normal and that's what she feels comfortable with. And I know even with my own mom, as amazing as she is, and she's such a badass. My mom is a badass. She is like, I remember from my wedding, my maid of honor was like, your mom is the HBIC. Like she's gonna she's gonna take over this show. And, she's very like, she claims, whatever she wants to go after and take. And I appreciate that, because I did get that from her. But I always knew that there was like something else to that system. Like there had to be a better way. So again, for me, growing up not having that, it was such a click for me and a change of like, yes, I wasn't brought up this way. I didn't grow up with all of this, but you can absolutely have it if you want it.
Yeah. So would you say, and this is just a question, that you turned what you viewed as a weakness into one of your strongest capabilities, just out of desire and wanting a piece, maybe? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I say that with like such conviction, because I remember like being the last kid picked up from ballet. I remember being, like just in a world of like chaos, and it wasn't chaos in the sense where it was like a dysfunctional home. It was chaos in the sense where it was like, I knew things could be better, but also better for my mom. And I knew that like, as the daughter watching her mom, and my mom and I, like we had, I feel like the typical mother-daughter relationship where it was like fighting over clothes and makeup and don't wear this and, don't go out of the house like that. Like the very like strict parent, which I totally get now because I don't have girls, but I totally get where she was coming from. But to be able to look back and say, I want to help the woman that where she was, and if I could change that and help her, how much easier her life would be and how much more peace she would have, and not having to struggle, like that internal struggle with yourself, because I saw that with her. So I feel like a big part of who I am today, like I thank her because of that, because I wouldn't be who I am today without having to have seen that and experienced it and gone through it.
Yeah. And then you're also, not only can you think about that woman, but then you can think about that woman's children, because you work, and so for your own children, you have this lovely life to provide because you're organized and you've got everything together and there's just a peace. Maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe some people enjoy the chaos and they thrive off of it, but of course, to each their own. But I think that what you're saying is you can benefit on both sides. You can benefit yourself and then the others that you interact with. So
yeah, and I've seen both. Like I've lived both. Like I've been in the crazy and in the overwhelm and the Tasmanian devil, period. And I've been in the, oh my gosh, yeah, there's still a lot going on, but there's systems to it and there's a strategy. And it's funny because like there's more planning over on this side, but you're at peace. So it's like, do I want to feel overwhelmed and chaotic and stressed? Or do I want to put a little bit of extra time and effort in to have that peace and know that things are handled over here versus like crazy mode?
Yes, I am exactly that way. I love it. Okay, so can you tell me, what do you feel was the hardest thing that you had to overcome in your journey so far?
I think honestly, just being vulnerable and sharing, because when you come from a place of, and also when I was writing the book too, I was like, well, how much do I share? Like, how deep do I go in terms of sharing that past life of what that looked like? Because it's personal, and for me, the more I've opened up and the more I've shared, the more of an impact it makes. And that's why I say, like, the way I operate my life now, it is totally different. It's a complete 180 from what it was like growing up. But for the women that are listening and watching and that are like, I could never imagine living with systems or this or that. I speak from both ends. Like I speak from both sides. I speak from coming from the chaos and from the planning side and all of that. And when you've been at both, then you can really tap in and say, which one serves me the best? And which one is going to be able to serve me to my highest and full potential? And I think part of that being so hard is because you do have to get vulnerable and you're opening up to a place that you don't typically share or talk about, right? Because a lot of people, it's like, if you ever seen the iceberg of success, and it's like everyone sees the stuff at the top, but they don't see the stuff on the bottom, the sacrifice and the hours of the time that you put in. I'm very intentional about where my time goes and how I'm structuring all that. But then I also, especially because the book is coming out and everything that comes with that, I do have to dive deeper and get more personal and share things that I just never had to share before because it wasn't part of the story, but now it is. So just being, transparent and having to open up and share that is something that it feels vulnerable. It feels scary at first, but then when you know how much of an impact and a difference it can make, it's easier and it becomes just part of that story that you share, and it's who I am.
And worth it. I think that you hit the nail on the head. The more open and authentic that you are, and the more willing you are to share, the bigger impact that you have with others because they can connect with you. So that's exactly that. I could see how it could be very glad that you were able to do that. I'm really excited to read about it and just feel connection there and know that, oh, hey, what can I pick up too? And that kind of thing. It's just nice to know that the other badass women that you see out there, they have struggles too. And they have parts that they don't just share everywhere, and that they're willing to be vulnerable. And because, you said it better than anything else. That's how you connect with people. So I'm really glad that you did that. So thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So can you tell me, and I think that there probably was, but I won't make any assumptions, during those struggles of like, okay, how much do I share? What do I do here? Did you have a mentor?
So I have mentors in the sense where I have mentors from afar. I also have personal mentors, being my husband, being members of my family. The one mentor that I really look to as like my North Star is my grandmother. She's 92 years old. She is like the complete and total package voice of wisdom. She had 4 boys. She was a teacher, wife, mother. She was the ultimate pioneer woman. I actually dedicate my book to her. Aww. And she is someone that I look at and I'm like, if I am half the woman that she is, I will be successful and happy and like have it all. Because truly, and think about raising kids in, the 30s and 40s. Like, to me, there wasn't Instacart and Amazon and all the technology that we have today to help us, outsource and delegate.
Very lucky.
Yeah. So much of like, if I need a voice of reason or someone to call on or talk to, she's 92 years old, but I can talk to her like she's my best friend and we're the same age and she gets it. She's very intuitive and just forward thinking with how she operates. So that to me is my personal mentor, someone that I've always, thank God, I've had my entire life where I've been able to tap into and have that resource. But then I also have, within business, my husband is an amazing mentor. It's so funny because so many of us are like, oh my God, I could never like work with my husband, or how does that, work? And he's a great person to bounce ideas off of and strategize with. So there's that also on a personal level. And then also from afar, of course, mentors through podcasts and courses and coaching and things like that I've invested in to help along the way.
That's awesome. If you, and I know this is probably a hard question, but if you could pick the one thing that you've gotten from a mentor out of any of the ones that you've mentioned, and it's like your one piece of gold, this is it, this is what I live my life by, what would it be?
Yeah. So it's, and I kind of mentioned this before, but it's never settle or succumb to the victim mentality. Always know that you're in control of your destiny and that you get to choose where you go. Because the second we allow excuses to come in and the doubt and the fears and the I can't do this mentality, forget it. It's gone. You're done. You can't. I mean, you can't be the one who gets to have the victories and the wins, and also be the one that's making the excuses. So like every single time I come up against a roadblock or something that's hard, I'm like, what's the lesson that I'm learning? What's the lesson that I'm learning that I can teach myself and then also pass on and allow that to be something that is a learning experience? Because again, it's just a part of life. We all are going to have these moments of figuring things out and learning and evolving, but you can't stay stuck in that victim mentality. You have to truly step into, who do I want to be? What is this teaching me? I'm in control, not the circumstance, not what happens. I get to show up, steer my own ship, and say, guess what? I'm not going to let excuses get in my way. I'm going to figure it out. So just truly being in control of your own destiny and knowing that you are going to be able to figure it out no matter what.
That's awesome. As you were speaking, you reminded me of one of my greatest mentors. And something that he told me was, this is always happening for me, never to me. And he was speaking to the victimization. And probably one of the greatest lessons that I, like you, learned is, if you play the victim, you give all your power away. And if you really care to grow and achieve, and you have all of these goals, you have to have your power. So don't give it away for anything. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care what what obstacles have been thrown by people or by circumstance. The second that you say, that happened to me, then you gave away all your power. Whereas if you say, this happened for me, what can I learn? Then you own it all, and just move forward to whatever it is that you want to attain. So thank you. I felt so much alignment with what you said there, and it reminded me of my mentor, and I was like, this is lovely. Okay, so my next question is going to be, what did you have to let go of or move on or maybe surrender to in this process?
So funny, because again, I think a lot of people's misconception when they see and they go through my programs and courses of how much I plan and schedule and all these things, that they're like, well, she's got no hiccups. There's just like no, I don't know, mistakes or anything in there. Like, that is so not the case at all. So part of that, of what I've had to learn and also give up, is knowing that, like, there's, again, as we've said, there's no one perfect way, but you always have to be evolving and learning and growing. So when things do happen, like trying to give up that perfect idea of whatever you think it is, right? So like, as much as we want a certain outcome to be a certain way, and being so set on that, you have to give up, do I want the end goal of what it is? Or am I so attached to the process that I can't get to the end goal? So a lot of it is like, we have to give up how we think we may get to the end goal, to the destination. And if we get there, yes, that's the thing that we want to attain, but don't be so married to, well, it's only going to be this way, and it's only going to be because I do X, Y, and Z to get to my destination that it's going to happen. When you become so rigid to actually making it happen, like the targets versus the goals, you'll never set yourself up for success. So you really do have to make sure that you're focused on what the end goal is. And this goes for relationships too. I mean, this is something my husband and I talk about, like, am I so worried about being right in an argument to win the argument? Or do I want him to understand, like, the purpose or the message or whatever it is that the conversation or, what we're talking about is actually about, versus winning, right? Because again, when we get in with arguments or whatever, it's like, well, do I want to win it, or do I just want him to understand what I'm saying? And no, I want him to understand my point. Like, I want to get that across, right? So same thing in business, like, don't be so married to the idea of like, it has to go this way versus what's going to be the easiest, most strategic way for me to get to the goal, versus being so married to how I'm getting there.
Yeah. Or even the illusion of how I got there. Like I have to get
Yeah.
there in perfection. Whereas,
Yeah.
oh man, you don't have to get there in perfection. And actually
Oh,
this
God,
journey
there's
for all of us
no such
has,
thing as perfect.
there isn't. And
Yes.
all of our journeys have bumps and we all get bruises and we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's part of
Yeah.
the beauty when you look back on it of, wow, I know that for me, some of my, I wouldn't say proudest, but moments that just make me feel like, wow, I am that, are the ones
Yeah.
where they were the hardest and they weren't planned. And when I was going through it, maybe I didn't love it. I wasn't like,
Right.
this definitely wasn't my plan. But you get the
Yes.
best
Yes.
of it and you learn to problem solve. And then when you look
Yeah.
back, it's gorgeous. And you've created a
Yeah.
piece with it. So
And there's and I love how you said, like, this idea of perfect, like there's literally no such thing as perfect. So when we get so set on that, I mean, it's like you set yourself up for failure, right? Because there's no perfect anything. It's just like you're learning lessons and you're evolving and growing. But like, I think that's probably another answer to your question is growing up, it was always like, you got to get good grades and you have to, it was like certain, I don't know, milestones that you had to hit, right? But it's like, we all get to live life in our own way, on our own terms. And when you can just squash the idea of perfection, you live. Like you get to live the life that you were meant to live, not on anyone else's terms, not on what someone else wants or thinks or whatever, how you want it. And that's when you get to share your gifts.
Yes, yes. I think that that's so true. And that's when you're most authentic and people are able to understand, communicate, and connect with you. So
absolutely.
the perfectionism is definitely a, hey, you gotta let it go. I know we all shoot for excellence, but there's a big difference between excellence and perfection. So that's an interesting one. I'm super curious if you talk about that in your book now. Anything?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Good.
So I do touch on that in the book because, and I say this to when I end my coaching calls, whether it's my one-on-one clients, my group coaching girls, I say it every time. They'll tell you. I always say to them, it's great that you're here and that you're showing up and that you're taking in the information, but now you need to go and you need to implement it. So don't worry about it being perfect or looking the right way. Just take action. And if it's messy action, then just go forward and do it. Like you're doing something. Like always be moving the needle forward. Don't worry about it being perfect because literally there's no such thing. As we're saying, there's no such thing. It's going to always be changing. But if you get so caught up in the perfection of it, it just stifles you and it stifles the growth of where you're meant to go. So
and the joy of the experience of getting there, right? My husband has this saying that I absolutely love, and he calls it failing forward. So we're failing forward, okay? We're all doing it, and we can enjoy the process and know that, hey, it might not be perfect, it might not have been exactly what we wanted, but we're moving forward, and we're growing, and we're continuing to evolve. So, okay. Yeah, I love that one. When he first said it to me, I was like, what do you think about that? And I was like, okay, I love it. It's grown on me. Like you, me, and my husband also work together. So it's a very unique scenario that we're both in, and you seem to love it just as much as I do. Not to say there aren't times that we're failing forward together.
And look, we're always learning. I mean, my husband has his own job. It's like he's more like, I'll go to him when I'm like, what do you think about this? And he's so great because I am, like I said, I'm a very masculine energy. So my husband, I give him all the credit in the world because I'll be like, what do you think about this? And then he'll tell me his opinion. I'll be like, well, no, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, I gave you my opinion. Whatever you want to do with it, go for it. We've been married almost 5 years, but it's so funny because he knows how I operate. And I'll go to him for the advice and the wisdom, but he knows I don't know how much you're into like zodiac signs and horoscopes. I'm a Taurus, so I'm very bullheaded, but that's also why I get things done super fast and in the way that I do. But it's so funny because I'm so true to my sign in the sense that I'm like, okay, let's ask for your advice and your opinion, but then, okay, I'm going to go do it my way. He's like, okay, whatever you want.
That's awesome.
So it's good to know how your partner operates.
It's a good thing that he understands you. So, and I'm sure you understand him just as well, and you offer whatever he's looking for too. Okay, absolutely. So this question for you, and I'm sure that you have a great answer. What about self-care? how do you, whenever Sandi is like, okay, I'm not saying that you're flustered or Tasmanian devil over there, but there's got to be times when you're like, whoa, that was a lot. What is it that
Yes.
you do that just kind of puts you in heaven?
Yes. So I am a huge advocate of self-care because we as women are wearing many hats and we wouldn't be able to be the best versions of ourselves if we're not fulfilled. I'm sure everyone's heard the quote, you know, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I couldn't agree with that more. So for me, a non-negotiable for me, even at 37 weeks pregnant, I had to think about it for a minute. Even at 37 weeks pregnant, I still work out at least 5 times a week. I move my body. I make sure I'm getting that movement. And it's not like because I want to look a certain way or the scale to say a certain number. It's because of I need it for my mental clarity. I need it for me to be able to get up and move and feel good. So that's always been a non-negotiable for me, that I at least 5 times a week, I'm up, I'm moving my body, I'm working out. And again, still at 37 weeks pregnant, I'm doing that. And I did it actually up with my first son, 38 weeks pregnant. And sorry about that. And then I had sciatica. So I had sciatica and then I had to stop. So unfortunately I didn't do the whole way, but I was pretty much there. And then also just meditation. I tap into meditation at least every morning and then at night. And that's just something for me to, before the day gets started and as the day's coming to an end, tap into that meditation. And also gratitude, because gratitude to me is something that life can get crazy, but when you can center yourself and be grateful for the little things, like I always joke that I write down that I'm grateful for the palm trees that are outside because I grew up in Pennsylvania and I live in Florida. And I look out my window and I'm like, oh my God, it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's not snowing. I'm grateful for the palm trees and the sunshine. So, you know, little things like that. And it's, of course, I write down the big things too, but being grateful for, you know, and I do this with my son at night. We say our prayers and we say the things that we're grateful for, you know, things like our health and just things that are easy to take for granted, but really are the big things, are so important to tap into, to just, you know, keep you grounded and really focused on the bigger picture. So you're not so wrapped up in all the things you have to do and accomplish. Like you got to ground yourself and really be grateful for all the blessings that you have.
Yeah, the grateful thing is, I mean, I know it's a hot button for everyone right now, and I think it should be forever because negativity can't exist in gratefulness. So it's just like, you know what, man, there's enough negativity out there. If we can just keep our hearts grateful, Absolutely. It can't exist there. So that's so nice.
Yes.
Sandi, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing. I feel like I learned so much and enjoyed you. And as I wrap the interview up, I want to ask you, is there one maybe final thought that you'd like to leave our listeners with? Maybe I didn't ask you about that you feel would impact them, or just something that you want to share?
Yeah. And, you know, I talk about this in my book, and I just want to say, you know, for all the women out there, you can have it all. You can tap into your full potential. You can have the career, the family, the health, the whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, but allow yourself to tap into getting those systems and the blueprint and the support that goes behind that, because you don't always need to have the answers figured out. Most of us don't, right? Because we got to figure that out along the way. But surround yourself with other people who do, and give yourself that opportunity to not doubt yourself, to go for it is whatever you want. For me, and I think for so many of us, for so long, we limit what it is that we think we can do or achieve. And we feel like there's a cap or some limitations. When you remove that and you start to track those wins to success, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to start off small. I'm going to build on this. And every single day, I'm going to focus on moving the ball forward. You start to unlock that potential. So for anyone that's listening in here and they're like, I know I want to go for more, and I have this, you know, you feel it's like a burning like desire, this feeling that you have inside yourself. And you're just like, I know I was meant for more. Or you're somewhere where you're at right now and you're like, I don't know if I am, but this sounds amazing. Let me check it out. Then yes, this is for you too. So don't doubt yourself. Don't put those limitations on you, because you never know who you're inspiring, whose life you're going to change. And at the end of the day, this is another quote that I love. If you don't win, who loses? So whatever gifts you have to put out into the world, don't hold them onto yourself. They're meant to be shared. It's meant to be given away. And when you can do that, the impact and the feeling that you get from that is going to be so powerful that it doesn't just change your life, it's this ripple effect of everyone around you. So don't hold yourself back, because when you do that, you're holding everyone else back around you, and we're all created for so much more. So go after it, don't let anything stop you, and just go for it.
Oh, I love it. Thank you again so much. That was beautiful. I'm glad that you had something to share there. I know that sometimes there's just these little pieces and they're like nuggets of gold, and it's like, hey, what would you share? And that is beautiful. So that brings us to the end of the interview portion. The last portion is a Q&A. I've opened up our live Q&A. So if anybody has questions that is watching this live, they can type them in there, and we can share those. But I also have ones that were posted previously that we've gathered. Yeah. So if you don't mind, we'll just jump right into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Great, awesome. So our first question is from Crystal Reyes, and she wanted to know, how do you like to prioritize your daily items or tasks?
Yes. Okay. Love this question. So I always, the night before or before my work day ends, I always plan out the next day. So you'll never see me without my planner right next to me, my little handy dandy. And I always focus on 3 things each day that are going to move me forward. I don't yes, I'll write out what my schedule looks like, but like I said, don't get married to this thing is at 11 o'clock, this thing is at 2 o'clock, because those things will more than likely move around. So what I focus on are my 3 goals of the day, the 3 targets that I'm going after to achieve the bigger goals, move the needle forward for whatever project or goal I'm working towards. So for me, those 3 things are always the focus. Again, the schedule can move around and shift, and I have an idea of what that looks like, but I'm not so stuck on that. So what I would say is, as you're planning out your days, figure out what your non-negotiables are for each day and focus on that versus what exactly needs to be plugged into each hour.
I love it. And I don't know if this is too personal. If it is, just tell me, Alicia, move on. But could you give us an example? Like, what were your 3 non-negotiables for today?
Yeah. So, okay. So let me go to today and I'll tell you. Because I do this. And you know what? And the way that I do this is most of the time, and again, depending on the day, I also put personal in there. So it'll be like 2 work things, 1 personal. Again, depending on the day, it just, and every day it changes. It's not, there's no one day that's ever the same. So today I had this on my, for one of my non-negotiables, I have my workout, and then I had putting my desk together, because I have a new desk that's being put together. But I also, for me, I'm not just doing those 3 things. Like, I had to meet with my assistant today. We mapped out all of the rest of the year. We're going through all of these things. But what I do is the things that I know I need done that day specifically, like getting my desk done. And for all of those of you who didn't catch the first part of the interview, we moved about 3 months ago. My office is the only room that still has boxes in it, and it's driving me bonkers. So for me, getting that desk put together, I had someone come in to put it together and build it and everything, means I get to have my office without boxes and everything organized and in place. So that was a huge thing for me to have done today. So I get to have the organization and all of that in place. Tomorrow, even though it's Saturday, and yes, I do this on the weekends, I don't take a day off, I do it every day. Tomorrow it's going to be undoing the boxes, spending time with my son, and then I have another call with my assistant. So it's again, it changes every single day. There's some personal, there's business on there, but it's what do I need to accomplish that day that's going to move me forward every single day?
Nice. So we're not talking about a to-do list. We're talking about, these are the 3 things that have to happen today to get me to my final goal.
Yes. And there's an entire breakdown of this in my book. I think it's it's either the 2nd or the 3rd chapter of the book that breaks all of this down. So for anyone that's interested in the book, Slay Your Day, it's going to be out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I have an entire chapter on exactly how I break this all down.
That is awesome. Sandi, I want to just take a quick moment. I realize that our time is up. So I want to ask you, do you have more time? Do you have 5 or 10 more minutes, or do we need to go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't want to make an assumption there. Okay. So the next question was, what do you do or recommend to manage stress?
Yeah. Okay. So that's another great question, because especially when you're operating at high levels and you're busy and your schedule, and I don't even like to use the word busy, I say productive, because when we change that thinking in our brains, even if you say to yourself, I'm busy, like I had a really busy day, that sounds draining and exhausting. But if you're like, I had a really productive day, you're like, man, I got a lot done. So just the shift of those two words
between negativity and positivity, the connotations behind the words. Yeah.
Exactly. So just the shifting of those two words is so powerful. So for me, what I like to do is I like to tap into, okay, what are my areas that I'm being most productive? And then how am I also like, what makes me feel good? So some days I'm like, you know what, I got to book a massage today because that's what's going to make me feel good. And that, especially this last trimester. but knowing and honoring your body and listening to your body, because for me, when you, like, again, when there's a lot of moving pieces, you have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to that internal voice. And again, there's some days, I remember my parents were visiting from Pennsylvania, and it was on Memorial Day. And I had said to my mom, because they were staying with us, I said, man, this is the first day, like work day, that I stopped and took a nap. And she's like, well, technically it's a holiday, so it's not a work day. But I was like, you know what? Like, why did I make myself feel bad for needing a nap when I'm pregnant and I'm going and my body needed it? So really just listening to your body for that self-care. If you need a nap or a massage or to go work out or just time to just sit with yourself and meditate, take it. Your body's talking to you and telling you that for a reason. So honor that. You will perform at such higher levels when you do that versus just going and not listening to what you truly need and what your body needs.
Yeah, I'm living proof of that one. And I still need reminders. It's like, oh, but just let me push a little bit harder. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Okay, just take a moment. It's gonna be fine.
Also, like, know the difference between when you should push a little bit harder and when you may like be giving yourself excuses and when you also truly need it. So just really knowing the difference between the two, because there is a difference of, oh, well, am I going to be lazy and just not do this today? Or do I really truly need this to honor my body? Because then we get into my body gets worn down, I get sick, I get, we don't want that. So you really do want to listen to your body and like what it truly needs and not push that off and honor what you need versus knowing when you're making excuses.
Agreed. Okay. So the next question is what do you recommend to limit distractions, i.e. emails, phone calls, etc.? Texts, I would assume.
Yes. I actually just had this question on my group coaching call this morning. And one of the women was asking a very similar question where she said she was like on a phone call, like when she was on her sales calls, and she would have pings from text messages or her phone or social media or whatever. And if we are, whatever zone we're in, right? Like if you're on a call, if you're sending out emails, those things are of such high importance that you don't want those distractions of the pings, the dings, people coming in to be affecting you. Because what happens is every time you're in a task and you get pulled away from it, it takes us 40 minutes to get back into that same thought process, that same task, to complete it than it would have been if we just would have not had the distraction in the first place and eliminated that. So what I would say is, if you're not already batching out your times and saying, okay, well, maybe it's even your days, because I advise on like either batching out your days or your times so they're structured, so you have set times for certain tasks. But if you are really getting caught up in the distractions and things going on, set a timer for yourself and say, for the next 20 minutes, I'm only focusing on emails, or for the next 60 minutes, I'm focusing on my prospecting or my follow-up or whatever that looks like. And then from there, give yourself that break to check social media or to go follow up with that phone call. But don't try to be in two important things at the same time, because neither of them will get done the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that we're in a world of such connectedness that we forget that no one's going to die half an hour that we devote to this. It's going to be okay. Like, you remember when you only saw your family, twice a year, whenever they came, and like we didn't have cell phones, and now it's just, we're so connected, which is an amazing thing, but learning to manage that appropriately is definitely difficult. I know I struggle. So that's really great advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So just be in the thing that you're in.
Yes. Be present, right? That this is life. Let's not just let it slip by constantly being distracted. Yeah. Okay. So I've got one last question from Mina, and she asked, how one manage the vision of their company / brand? Any best practices on how to start if the idea still feels infantile?
So she's asking about, can you say that again? It kind of broke up.
How do you manage the vision of your company or brand? So she feels like it's still in infancy and she's not sure how to manage
the brands, like the bigger concept of the
big picture, I think is what.
Okay, so what I would do is I would get very, very crystal clear on what the brand was and what it stands for. So a great way to do this, a great exercise, is to map out what 4 pillars that your brand stands for. So what business was it? What kind of business?
She didn't say.
Okay, so let's just say, I don't know, it's a health and wellness business. I'm just picking anything. Whatever the business is, right? You want to pick the 4 things that you stand for, the 4 things that you speak on. Like for me, I know that's productivity, it's high performance, it's organization. And then I also dive into one of my 4 pillars. I talk about my testimonials and the successes of my clients. So those are the 4 things that I focus on. When I am unsure on what I need to post or talk about, or the branding, or however it is I'm going to show up. And this is across the board. This is for your email marketing. This is for your social media, out to your clients. You know what it is that you're speaking to, and what your vision is, and what you are delivering to that audience. So what I would say for her is, if it's also in the infancy stage of really not knowing where she's going, really get clear on who am I, what do we stand for, and what's the message that I'm putting out there. Because when you can get really strategic and focus on, these are the 4 things that I'm focusing on. And yes, you're gonna have subcategories that fall under those main, I call them umbrella categories. You know what you're not focusing on, right? Because we don't want to focus. There's just certain things in business that you're like, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to go there. It gets you off track of what the direction is of expanding your brand is and your empire. So focus on what it is that you are, like what you do stand for, those 4 pillars. And that will direct you every single time on how you show up, what you're speaking to, what your message is to your client. And that also, because I just did an entire 3-month program on this, that also helps to strategize your content, like your content plan, how you're planning out your months, your weeks, your days, like it all falls under that category. So I would say if you're struggling with like where to start with what it is that you want to speak to. And then from there, you can build out your systems and the actual plan behind it.
That was a phenomenal answer. And ladies, and if there's any guys watching, you just got her 3-month condensed version, like amazing. We'll have to clip this one and be like, if we need help, we go back here. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you again for joining us today and sharing just so many authentic truths. It's really been an honor to have you here on our interview series. And I'm sure all the other women who have joined us today look forward to continuing to watch you be the badass that you are. I'm just so, I don't know if proud is the right word, but just excited to show you off to everybody. You're amazing. And lastly, I'd like to ask you, if any of our listeners would like to connect with you, they've learned a lot today and they're interested, what would be the best way for them to reach you?
Yeah, so across all the platforms, I'm Sandi Glandt. So Facebook, Instagram, and it's Sandi with an I, so it's S-A-N-D-I, Glandt. I would love for you guys to reach out to me. Let me know that you were here on this episode. Message me so we can chat. Let me know any questions that you have if you want me to dive into anything deeper. The book is coming out. Like I said, it'll be out coming in July. So that'll be up. And then all the information in terms of like the book and my courses and programs is all just under SandiGlandt.com. And they can jump in there and just get all the updates in terms of like Facebook group and, you know, all the freebie stuff, just to kind of tap into the community and see what we're doing and what's going on.
That is amazing. We are definitely going to have your book for our book club. So I think we already have,
I love that.
I am so excited. We already have August picked, but I believe September is open, and that should be plenty of time to slip that one in. So I'm excited.
I would love that.
That's amazing. And maybe whenever we do our discussion, we could have you join us. I think that would be phenomenal.
Absolutely.
If you're not busy with the newborn and all of that, we would love it.
Count me in. Sign me up.
You are awesome. You're like, I can fit it in. Watch me. I'm organized.
Absolutely.
We'll make it into your top 3 then. All right. Well, for all of you who joined this live event, thank you. And for those of you who will watch in the future, we hope that you guys enjoy. Please visit my website, aliciacovey.com, to sign up for an invitation to the next League of Goddesses interview. And until next time, you guys live an extraordinary life. Have a good one. So thank you for taking the time.
Like, it's so great. Like, I love like when Amy reached out, because our husbands connected us, and I was like, this sounds amazing. And then Natalia, who's also my business partner, was on like the next day's call. Like, we did the first day, and then she did the next day. And I was like, man, it's so good to just connect with all these like badass women who are doing amazing things. And it's that's why I love. And I was like, oh, it sucks that it was COVID and we didn't actually get to like be with each other, but it was still amazing that we all connected. So it was so good.
I think so too. And I feel that like men have been doing this a long time, and they're really good at helping each other out. And like one man's win doesn't mean that the man next to him is less. They're very good at it. Like, it doesn't even, they're happy for him and they're doing their own thing, right? And I think for women, for so long, we've been in competition with each other just naturally, you know? And so we're learning how to operate together and be like, hey, she's a badass, and that doesn't mean I'm any less of one. We're all doing amazing things, and we can help each other and lift each other up. So I'm super excited.
And there's only, like, you only become greater because of that, right? Like the momentum that you get, and then like that's like the next layer, the next layer, the next layer, because it's only that's why for me, I'm like, I've never seen it as competition in any way. I'm always like, we only help each other. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's so good for everyone involved. So like, I don't know why this was ever even a thing. Like, this only just helps everybody.
Yeah, I think so. My younger sister is in med school, and she brought up a really good point. And I know you probably have stuff to do, so I'll make it quick. She told me, she was like, think about it, Alicia, for the last millennia, however long, the only way that women were able to create a life that they wanted or have any control or power over it was to marry the best man, wherever that was, whoever he was, and however you could make it happen. It didn't matter if I had to tear Sandi down to get him, or to get him to pay attention to me. And so that was the only way that we could secure our futures. And so we've been doing this for so long in competition with each other. And now it's not that way.
Great.
Yeah, it's like in our DNA, but it isn't that way anymore. And so we're unlearning millennia. Yeah, so I think it's fun for, I think
I can do to like help support anything that you're doing, let me know. I would love to like push it out into our community. So just let me know whatever I can do to help to support you and your mission.
Oh, you're super sweet. Thank you. I feel like you might enjoy, so I just started the League of Goddesses, and really what it is, it's just a place for women, mostly entrepreneurial women, because I think that they can be lonely. And it's like just a place where you can go and connect with others quickly, and where you can share your gift, but then also share what you need help with. There are men there, so it makes it a safe place. Not that they aren't. I love men. I'm like, I've learned so much from them, but I feel that
we understand each other like on a level that they can't.
Well, and also when you're thinking about that natural like competitive thing that happens with women, it's only when there's a man present, you know, when they're not, we can be safe and free and let our guards down. Just like you were saying, be vulnerable.
Yes.
and just be like, hey, I'm here and I need some help. And so that's kind of what I created it for. If you want to check it out, please do. And if you want to invite any women that you feel are like badasses and have something to give and share. And it's just
send me more of the details on it, and I'll look at it again, because I know that you sent me, there was something that you sent, but I couldn't get into it. Like I couldn't see what it was. So just send it to me.
I'll resend you the link. It's basically like, instead of hosting everything on Facebook, it's its own. So like, it's closed and it's ours. And then that way, whatever Facebook does, I don't care. I'm like, it's here and it's our own network, and it operates very similarly though. People can just post and people can connect, and anything, any events that we create and do, it's on there. So if you're interested in any of them, you can RSVP and stuff like that.
And this to me again, I definitely want to check it out. And like I said, anything I can do. I mean, we have Project in Charge, so I can share that with the ladies. So whatever I can do to help support in any way, just give it to me and let me know, and you got it.
I appreciate it. I am so, like, even though I feel like I'm pretty good at getting shit done and being organized, I am so excited to read your book, because it's just like, hey, I think she's a powerhouse, and if I can pull any extra tips, can you imagine where I'll go then? So
and that's what I say is like so powerful. Like the women that I do coaching with, so like I said, we ended the 3-month coaching program today, and one of my one-on-one clients was also in the group, and she went on and she's like, ladies, I've been working with Sandi, and she goes, within the first 2 months, she goes, I have 3 streams of income that are coming in, because I helped her, because COVID happened, and then she's like, oh my God, I got to pivot, like we have to do this. And it was amazing, because she was like going on and on and on, and I'm like, yes, like this is like, you know, when I get asked in interviews, like what am I most excited about, or what drives me? And it's literally when these women, and this is someone who just had her second baby, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's a woman in business. I'm like, this is exactly what drives me and fuels me, because for myself as a wife and a mom and a woman in business, like I need to be fulfilled in all of these areas. It's not just like having one would fulfill me. I need it all. Like I need all of those things. And for so many women, it's like, why are we told we can't have it all? Why is it like one or the other? No. We get to have it all. So when I get to hear that, I'm like, yes, this is it. You know,
that's my bliss. Yeah, dude.
It makes my heart so happy, because I just feel, I'm like, not only does it fuel my passion and what I do, you know, but it allows her to be the best version of her for everyone around, you know, in her circle. It's that, like it was saying, it's the ripple effect. So it's amazing how, you know, with my coaching, I can do it with the programs, but now with the book, like really it's like the gateway into being able to tap into this.
Yeah. No, I agree. And then you can impact so many people. It's just like, oh, not everybody.
And that's hope. And it really is. Like, I think all the time, I'm like, man, if my mom would have had this, like, you know, growing up, she would have been so much more at peace. And so, because she didn't learn it growing up, but she also she wasn't raised with it. She didn't learn it. She never had it to understand it. So it's funny because like I said, my parents were here for my birthday, and she's like, I still don't know what you do. And I'm like, okay. Okay, thanks.
You're like, I'm going to put you on a regimen now. Like,
yeah. She's like, I don't know what any of your girlfriends do. And I'm like, oh God.
They all do the same thing as me.
Yeah. But it's, you know, again, it's that mentality of like the victim mentality versus like getting out of your own situation, getting out of your own way, you know?
Yeah. But isn't that so much it? It's just like, I'm creating this difficult scenario. No one else is doing it. It's me. Yeah. It's the way you're thinking.
And sometimes I talk to her and like we have these conversations, and she's like, you should have been a therapist. And I'm like, no, Mom. I'm like, no, like it's a lot more simple than you make it out to be. Like it doesn't have to be this like difficult thing like she's always made it out to be. But that's my hope for the women that get the book and that, you know, dive into this, is that they realize like it's not brain surgery, it's not rocket science. It's literally like, do you want to change? If you do, here you go, follow this, and like make it your own, you know, like there's no one way, like you find it. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. I enjoyed it. I hope that you get your desk done today. You already got me done. And then
my desk is done. So now I just have to put the box away, and I'm like, yes,
Nice.
so good.
Oh,
Get the workout in, and then
well,
I'm good. And then
that's
good to
awesome.
go.
Thank you again, Sandi. I appreciate
Thank
you
you
so much.
so much. I'll talk to you
Okay,
soon.
have a good one.
Bye-bye.